All right, the last one. And, I think there's follow-up that needs to be done. I'd love to bring in a real estate person to get their feedback on this. But the Boston Business Journal and a whole host of other places have been talking about this, but there's a new housing bill that got passed. I'm sure if you're in this business, you heard about it. And BBJ highlighted a few things. There is, of course, the required tax break for office to resi conversion.
We've heard about this.
There, yep. Now it's the state jumping in. So tax breaks on it, and then there's some innovation fund money that can also go to this. So there's a couple of ways where you can either get credits or some funds to do office to resi conversion. There's a thing called the Momentum Fund, where the state will invest money into mixed income and workforce housing projects at lower interest rates. And that sounds like it's like a money maker, right? So I think they have like 50 million in it now or something like that. And they'll lend those dollars and then get paid back. The builder or developer gets a lower interest rate and the state makes money off of that. And they were talking about how they want to get other investors like pension funds to invest in that and stuff like that. So that's kind of like a money maker thing. I'm going to save the ADUs for last. And then they could basically throw a huge amount of cash, $2 billion in spending on public housing, 800 million towards affordable housing, and 275 million for green housing. So they're going to throw all this cash at it. And then there was a zoning change, and I want to kind of hear Mike's opinion on this, where they're at a state level making ADUs, I wouldn't say as of right, but towns can't prohibit them. So those are the big ones. What do both of you think? Does this move the needle?
I mean, I have a lot.
What are your thoughts?
I have a lot on the zoning side. I've been following this since 2010. I think I've been in on the zoning reform. But as far as the other incentives, I think it just goes in the same direction, right? You gotta be able to build it. So, are people going to build it? Are people going to take the space? Are building owners going to want to convert their space from commercial to residential? But I mean, I don't know if it does it. It's great. I think it's great optics, but I don't know if if, like you said, it pushes the needle and gets everybody out there with hammers and drills ready to build.
Yeah, I kind of think, will it help? Sure. Will this thing be efficient? No. I think there's huge demand for starter homes and affordable homes, but I think inflation's a problem, and not just on a national level, like in Massachusetts, it's just much more expensive to live. And I think inflation is caused by government overspending and overregulation and all that other stuff. And I don't think the answer is more government spending, and I don't think it's going to be a super efficient. Like, will we get more housing units out of it? Yeah, we'll get more housing units. Will it build more affordable? Yeah. Does it really solve a problem? I don't think so. Reg?
I don't know. I'm like, yeah, like who's really in need of housing? Like, what? I feel like a lot of this is fluff, right? Like we saw, Boston tried to do the office to residential conversion. A lot of this is just. I'm with you guys. Like, I feel like it's not. Is it going to really make a huge impact? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's grasping at straws. How much lobbying is involved with this, where some group or company lobbied for something and they'll take advantage of that. But is it going to is there just some average developer that's going to benefit from this?
Right.
I don't think so. The people doing public construction are going to get jobs, and we're going to build stuff.
Right.
And, at least we get some housing units out of it, but it's like, it's not fixing the problem, right? People should want to be building. There's a need, but the system is broken in a way that people can't afford to fulfill that need because they can't make any money off of it. So how do we fix that? And I think just throwing cash at it, it's like, it's a little better than paying people to dig holes to give people jobs, right? And we get some housing at
And
the
then,
end.
did I read correctly that the majority of the funds is already going towards that Alston project for the Davis company?
Yeah, I think that was the momentum fund. Like a lot of that money, I think a quarter of it was already allocated to Davis Company to do the Alston job. And that's where, like, I don't know, I'm not being conspiratorial there, but like, is that where
Right.
some of the lobbying is happening?
Yeah,
Where the
let's
stuff
do
is
it
all
this
lined up ahead
way.
of time, right? Yeah, so like, not shocked if this isn't the most open and transparent thing. Is a lot of it just, as Mike says,
Right.
fluff? Or no, who
Reggie
said
said
fluff?
fluff.
Somebody
I
said
think I
fluff.
said
Reg.
smoke and mirrors.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So I don't know. I think yes, they're going to throw $2 billion into public housing that's going to get spent and will create jobs and build housing units. So yeah, that helps there. But let's go to the ADUs because that's the one I'm kind of interested in. And uh, this is like the whipping boy for me. But um, no, I looked into what the law actually says, and I think it's worthwhile me reading it, and then I want to hear Mike's take on this language. So it says, no zoning ordinance or bylaw shall prohibit, unreasonably restrict, or require a special permit or other discretionary zoning approvals for the use of land or structures for an accessory dwelling unit or rental thereof in a single-family residential zoning district, provided that the use of the land or structure for the ADU under this paragraph may be subject to reasonable regulations, including but not limited to 310 CMR. And then I think it says, if applicable, site plan review, regulations concerning dimensional setbacks and the bulk of height of structures, and may be subject to restrictions and prohibitions of short-term rentals as defined in this section. And then obviously it needs to meet the building code. So is it really you're allowed to build these anywhere? It seems, especially even that what threw me off was the language that no ordinance
Right.
unreasonably
That's common
restricts.
language.
What's the
That's
definition? What do you say?
that's language that's already established. So I can reel off on this if you
Please
want. So this is in the
go
same
for it.
section as like the Dover Amendment, right? Protected uses. So Mass General. So this is in 48. Here's the issue: is I don't know how this ties back as a state bill to Boston, because the language that you're reading is going to be in Mass General Law 48. So that's the zoning act for the state, right? So this is actually going to put
Yeah.
those Tony suburbs who have restricted accessory dwelling units, in-laws, things like that, and put crazy regulations on them. This is going to turn them on their head, actually, because it goes against everything that they try to do over the years to restrict these things. They have actually created two families in these districts, is what they've done. They've created two, so this is a backdoor way of, how they said, let's get rid of single family districts like California did.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
actually a
Yeah.
step in that direction, believe it or not, by doing this, because they have allowed it under 48 section 3. You cannot prohibit the use under 48 section 3, meaning the use is allowed, and reasonable restrictions are that you can't impose restrictions to the point where it's not feasible to build, right? And that's been established through court what that means. It's a little different for a school, um, or a church or something like that, and what their mission is. But it's been established as far as reasonable. This is going to be litigated, I think, throughout the state as far as what can be done to prohibit these things and what can be done to limit. Um, because it's always been in most municipalities, you have to live there, it has to be in your house. And they've actually established, most communities say it has to be the second degree of kinship, meaning like an aunt or a grandmother or something like that, right? So this loosens
Mhm.
all that up. And I truly believe that this is the first step to eliminating single family districts. Now, planning, I've said it before about MBTA zoning. A site plan review in most towns, if you go to the planning board for site plan review, they can hold this up forever. They can make it uneconomical for you, to actually even do it. So I see in some communities that's the backstop for them to slow this process down.
Yeah, I don't know. So maybe I'm reading it wrong because I'm reading it and I'm thinking there's enough loopholes here, for lack of a better word, in the sense that the town can use to drag this out and make it a
Yep.
challenge. Because okay, they do an unreasonable restriction, but now that has to have somebody take it up in court. So that buys you a year of not getting these things. And then you still have all the setback
Right.
requirements that you have to comply
But I
with.
tell you what,
And
if I'm in
that makes
Brookline
things
or Weston or Sudbury and I'm getting an additional dwelling unit
yep,
on my property, oh yeah, I'm going to court. I'm absolutely going to court, right? And then the neighbors are going to go to court as well because
yep,
they don't want the additional unit beside them. So
yeah.
this is going to create a lot of problems, but it does loosen up, the regulation and gives the municipalities more guidance and restrictions on what they can restrict. Um, so
Hmm.
I think it's going to be a mess for a little bit, and I think this is a shock. The one that was the biggest shock to communities is allowing multiple accessory dwelling units by special permit. It doesn't say you have to. It says a municipality can allow multiple accessory dwelling units. Now, the interesting thing is a lot of communities already revised their zoning bylaw knowing this was coming, but the final version
Hmm.
is not what a lot of communities adopted in their zoning bylaws. So now they have to go back and revise. But I think this plays out. Uh, this plays out in court over the next, couple of years before it gets revised, if not more stringent with an affordability component to it. But we'll see.
Yeah. This is funny how this has been playing out. Like, I think 5 or 6 years ago, I did a podcast
Yep.
on this, saying that this is the trend. You saw Oregon hop on it, and I kind of actually liked the way they did it with kind of like rings, and it was based off of population and based off of your population and how close you were to an urban district. Basically they wanted to protect like rural areas and farms and stuff like that, not force it on them, but other communities kind of force it on them. Um, so we could see this coming, or like if you were watching this kind of closely, you saw it coming. But right now, it's kind of like, all right, people like us might have been watching this wave brewing out
Yep.
in the ocean, but now it's crashing on the beach, and people are like, whoa, whoa, what's happening? But this is a battle, and right now, that wave is that this wave of upzoning, removal of single family housing, like the
Yep.
whole suburban experiment, that
Yep.
kind of push that we've done for years is
Right.
losing. So, and we're seeing it with like streets and squares. We're seeing it with the MBTA Communities Act. We're seeing it with ADUs. And like we got the MBTA Communities Act, but look at the towns that
Right.
are just
Yeah.
giving the state the middle finger, right?
Yeah.
Saying,
That.
we're not doing that. Take me to court. So there's a fucking fight that's going to happen
So
here, and it's going to be
wait. Let
nasty.
me tell you how nasty it's going to get. Because in this housing bill, right, which people, I don't know if anybody saw this
Yep.
coming. So right now, under Mass General Law 40A, for Slapsuits, right? You don't like the NIMBY. You don't like the property beside you putting on an addition or whatever.
Yep.
What I thought was most significant, and I hadn't heard of this coming down the pike, is it used to be there was a $15,000 surety that if I appeal your project, your attorney could ask the judge to say, hey, we want this surety because we believe this is a nonsense lawsuit, right? And the judge could review it and say, yeah, I want this in
Yep.
escrow, or I want this surety. So $15,000, that was a lot. And if the judge deemed it to be a slap suit or a frivolous lawsuit, then your bills could get paid because that neighbor appealed your project, right? So they would pay your attorney's bills and whatnot. Well, $15,000 being a lot, under this new housing bill, they slipped in. Now the frivolous lawsuit provision is $250,000. They can ask for up to $250,000 if you're going to appeal somebody's, So I think this is the pushback on the NIMBY for somebody just protesting, a project going up beside them, and the judge finds that it's frivolous or that it's, was done for that purpose, that your bills get paid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I fucking love that. Because you know what? We've seen it so much, just whether it was in the building department days or just living. There was one time with the balls on these people. There were two houses on either side that were these giant old Victorian, 3 stories, beautiful homes, but gigantic. And in between
Yeah.
was a little ranch, single story ranch. This person wanted to build a house not even as big as the 2 neighbors, right? And they got it approved, went through a zoning process, got their variance, went to go build it. The 2 neighbors sued the guy, and they had the nerve to say that this house is going to cast a shadow on their home. So I heard about it, so I went and walked by and looked at it. I'm like, you motherfuckers. I'm like, this person has a little ranch, and your big ass buildings have been casting shadows on this poor guy's house for however long he's lived there. But the lawsuits, the guy didn't have the money to go forward and fight back.
Right.
So he ended up not getting his project, and they won. Right? It is. It really is.
Yeah.
So I love this one.
I'll give you one more.
But yeah, this is
Let me give you one more.
Go
Since
for
Joe
it.
Sway
Yeah.
is here, plays right in. One thing that makes sense that they put in there that they need to put more teeth in it, though, is that affordable housing, they gave the allowance for communities to enter into agreements with developers. If you have inclusionary zoning, which is the municipality requires that you provide X amount of your project affordable, not 40B, right? It's just inclusionary where the town writes it into their zoning. If you build 20 units, 2 of the units have to be affordable. What they did write into this housing bill, which is, kudos to the state for at least putting it in, is that a town may use preference for veterans to have housing and count that towards the affordable unit count, right? So if they enter into it, 10% of the affordable that they're required to provide can go towards veterans, and that can count towards their affordable housing. And if it's a 40B, which is an affordable housing a zoning development, they can utilize that as well towards their affordable housing for the 40B. So there are a lot of provisions they added to it regarding eligibility and when you have to sign up, the timeline where the veteran has to sign up. But I think that's a positive for veterans as far as affordable housing and preference for housing.
That's great. And it's just the more we open up opportunities to meet those numbers, and whether I don't even know if I like that method as a way to do things, but if we're going to use that method, open it up to as many people as possible. If it's elderly, veterans, let's give more people more options, to loosen things up, to get more things, get more things built. That's I'm down with all that. I do want to. I want to talk about Josue's comment about ADUs in Mattapan, maybe we should hold that for the next one. But this battle, it's legitimately going to be a battle because we're talking about people that also want to protect
Right.
their property values. And in fairness, we've created this system where everybody's retirement is their home. So they're having fears that, okay, if you're adding all these more units and we're making things more affordable, making things more affordable means my house is worth less, right? So I think that is going to cause an epic showdown. And right now, the upzoning folks and that movement is winning, but I don't think it's going to be without a fight. So,
All
it's
right.
popcorn.
All right. Very good.
Awesome. All right, 7
Bye,
o'clock.
I'll see you.
guys.
See you, folks.